So you've made some progress with your anxiety recovery, but you keep finding yourself feeling stuck or discouraged by your setbacks. I'm going to share with you some tips on how I stay consistent with my anxiety recovery. And just for transparency, I don't always stay consistent. That's just life. But there are some things that I do that really help, and some major mistakes I've learned over the years that you don't want to make. So let's just get straight into it with the basics. So when I talk about the basics, these are the minimum things that we need to keep in good balance. For me, I break them down into 4 pillars: sleep, diet, exercise, and routine. Now, I won't go in too much detail for each of them because each of these could be a video within itself, and I'll probably do that in the future. But I think it's important to get these out of the way. And these may seem obvious. If you've ever been to the doctor, if you've been to a therapist, these are usually the things that they check first. But there's a reason why that is, because these things are so important to maintaining good mental well-being. But they're so easy to overlook, especially when we're dealing with mental health issues. It can be so hard to maintain these things. So let's start with sleep. This is all about sleep hygiene. Now, I understand when you're anxious, it can be incredibly hard to get the right amount of sleep. You're too anxious to fall asleep, you stay up all night worrying, and then the next day you feel more and more anxious because of all that missed sleep. Now, this isn't just something that you can fix in an instant, but there are so many things that you can do to up your chances of getting a good night's sleep. So first, you can ask yourself these questions. Are you watching TV at night? How many hours do you spend on screens before bed? Are you eating too late? I won't go into all of it here, but you need to have good sleep hygiene as a minimum. That means no screens at least an hour before bed. That means don't eat in your bed. Actually, don't do anything other than sleep in your bed, because you want your mind to associate your bed with the place that you begin to wind down and relax, fall asleep. You also want to leave adequate time. You want to go to bed early, try to fall asleep at around the same time every day, and wake up in the morning at the same time. And these things may sound arbitrary, but they work. So look into sleep hygiene and make sure you have this covered. Even if your sleep isn't perfect, doing these things is going to help. So next up is diet. Now, I'm not a nutritionist and I'm not going to tell you any magic diet that you have to be on, but I'm sure you've heard about a balanced and healthy diet. But there are a couple of really important things that I've learned over the years about food. Number one is sugar, caffeine, anything that causes spikes in energy that drop off later. You want to avoid these. For example, when you eat too much sugar, you get a rush and then you get a drop. The same with caffeine. And these can really contribute to those symptoms of anxiety like the racing heart or feeling out of it, especially because we're hyper aware of our bodies and how we feel. Next up is exercise. Now, I don't mean you need to be an athlete or you need to go for crazy runs every day. But if you realize that you're quite sedentary, you sit down a lot and you don't move a lot, then you need to start moving, whatever that will look like for you. Because I understand that it's not easy when you're anxious to necessarily start doing exercise, especially cardio, because it can bring on those symptoms that you might be afraid of. But at the very least, getting up, walking around, walk in circles. When I had a full-blown panic disorder and agoraphobia, I was so sedentary, but I knew I needed to move, but those feelings of the racing heart and getting active were causing me to panic. Eventually, I just started running around in circles, and then I got to the point where I could leave the house and go for a walk, but that's for another story. But if you can, then exercise. All it's going to do is keep you healthy, keep your heart healthy, keep you in top condition, and it's going to give you those endorphins and those feel-good hormones. And remember, I'm not saying any of these things are going to get rid of your anxiety, but you need these at a baseline. And I'm sure that if you're not doing all these things now, once you have these in place, you will notice a difference. And the final thing is routine. Routine is how you bring all of this together and start to hold yourself accountable. Create a diary and plan out your day. What time will you start to wind down? What time do you expect to go to sleep? What time are you going to wake up in the morning? When will you exercise? To be honest, when I started doing this, I would plan out my day by the hour. Every single hour was planned. And this actually really helped, because at any given time, I knew what I was going to be doing next. And it actually kind of gave my mind a break from this constant worry or uncertainty, because I always had something to do, or I always knew what I was going to do next, and I could focus on that instead of ruminating about things that may or may not happen. And when you do start winding down, when you're not using the screens and things like that, you can use this time to read, you can use this time to prepare for the day ahead. Using this time to write that plan for the next day is a really great thing, because it can help to relieve some of that stress stress, and also some of that worry about the day to come, because you're taking action, you're being in control, you're planning. If anything, it could help you build some confidence in yourself. So those are the basics that you need to get down. And I would start there before starting anywhere else. You can even stop this video now, go look into sleep hygiene, see if there's any ways you can improve your diet, see if you can incorporate some more exercise into your life, and go start to build a real routine to start bringing all of this together. And once you've done that, see the difference in how you feel. Just a couple of weeks of being consistent every day. So next up, we're going to talk about checking in. So everyone is different. Everyone has different triggers, different reasons for anxiety, and overall different lives. So in order to find out what works and what doesn't for you, and recognize any patterns or hidden triggers, keeping a series of specific diary can be extremely helpful. Now, this is something that I was actually told to do in therapy. Because I had a panic disorder, I had to keep a panic diary to keep track of my panic attacks and fill out certain information about them to find out what was going on, what were the patterns, what were the triggers, what were the common themes. I would basically fill it out every time we had a panic attack, and it would help me to work through those feelings and symptoms and thoughts in the moment. I would then go back to my therapist. Some weeks I would have less panic attacks, and that would be something we'd celebrate. Some weeks I would have more, and that would be something that we could learn from. There are also other diaries like thought diaries, worry diaries, and even activities like behavioral experiments that you can try out. The only problem with this is when I was in therapy and asked to keep these diaries, the only option was to print them out and carry around this kind of cumbersome sheets of paper that I had to fill out whenever I had a panic attack, and like that's just not practical. So I actually went ahead and just developed my own app that has all these diaries in it. So it's called Therasize. I'll show you a little bit about how it works, and I'll probably make another video on it. But if you want to download it, just check the link in the description. I'm basically trying to make all the tools that I use to help with my anxiety and other mental health issues really widely available and easy to access. Another great thing about this app is you can actually connect it directly to your therapist so that they can keep track of how you're doing in between sessions or work in real time to collaborate with you in the session. They can even send you homework, send you forms to fill out, stuff like that. So check it out and let me know in the comments if you want me to do another video about this, because it's something that I'm really passionate about, something that I'm spending a lot of my spare time working on, and I think it's going to be really useful for a lot of people. There's already loads of people using it. So now we're at the final part of this video, and definitely the most challenging part, but it's really important, and that is pushing yourself. Now, this is a really important distinction to make. When I say push yourself, I don't mean force yourself. And I don't mean let anyone else force you either. These things are very different. But sometimes pushing yourself will feel like forcing yourself. And sometimes that's just what you need. So as an example, if you find yourself unable to take public transport because of panic attacks or something like that, and that's something you want to overcome, then your ultimate goal will be to take public transport, probably daily, and be able to take it whenever you need. It doesn't necessarily mean you won't feel apprehensive, but you'll be able to manage those feelings and emotions and ultimately go through with it. And over time, that apprehension will lessen. So if you're afraid of public transport and your goal is to take it, obviously you wouldn't just start by jumping on a bus and train and pushing yourself to go as far as you can. Firstly, you wouldn't be able to do that. Secondly, that could probably cause more harm than good because you're not ready. And thirdly, maybe a bus is easier than a train for you, or maybe a train is easier than a bus. There's a lot of considerations you need to do. So this is where you would need to build a plan, kind of ladder, starting from the easiest thing that you could do right away to the hardest, most ultimate goal that you're planning to overcome, so that you can slowly work yourself up. So on the first day, if you're worried about taking the bus, you might walk to the bus stop, sit there, and that's it. That's all you do. For you, you're feeling all these uncomfortable emotions. You're feeling terrified. You're feeling that apprehension of getting on the bus, that anticipation. But you sit with it. You don't just go home. You don't give up. You sit with it, you push through. Because as we know, avoidance is one of the things that maintains anxiety the most, because we never allow ourselves to disprove the false beliefs that we have. You might do this a few times, and then the next step is to actually get on the bus. Now, depending on you might just get on and then get immediately off, just to feel what it's like to be on there. But the point is, you're doing something that you wouldn't usually do. It's not meant to be comfortable. The idea is not that you get on the bus and you don't panic and everything's fine. You're gonna be stressed, you're gonna probably panic, but you have to go through that. So let's say the next step, you get on the bus and you travel for one stop. Can you imagine feelings that that person will be feeling? Willingly doing the thing that causes you to panic the most. That's not easy, and it's incredibly uncomfortable. But remember that growth doesn't happen when you're feeling comfortable. So that's exactly the point. It only happens when you get outside of your comfort zone. Because you've mastered your comfort zone, there's no more to learn there. You need to get outside of it, where you feel afraid, where you feel uncomfortable, where you feel anxious. The key here is to be consistent. Each day, you should make a little bit of progress. Go one step stop further. The next day, go 2 stops further. You'll notice it gets easier each. Now, ideally, you should make a little progress each day. But let's be serious for a second. This is the real world. Some days you're going to have bad days. But the key here is to not let a bad day bring you down. If you have a panic attack one day, if you get scared, or if you're unable to go to the next stop one day, don't let that stop you. Don't let that make you give up. Those are the times when you really need to try again. When the next day you need to say, okay, I didn't make it yesterday, but that's okay. I can learn from that. And this time I'm going to try again. We're going to go another stop further. Remember, it's not about doing this without the anxiety or without the fear or without the panic. You will feel those. Another way to think of it is to realize that you want to feel those things in order to get better. Because if it's too easy, then you're probably not doing anything. So the biggest thing that actually helped me was completely changing my mindset. Changing my mindset to run towards the things that would cause me fear, because I knew just how much those things were helping me. And I can tell you from experience, the first time that you truly face fear, let all those feelings happen, let the panic happen, let the anxiety happen, keep going. That moment when you pass through, when you realize, actually, I'm going to be okay, actually, I'm in control, that feeling is incredible. It's unmatched. And that's what you need to aim for. That will change your mindset. And talking more about those hard days when it feels like you can't do it, don't let those discourage you either. Those are a natural part of the process. You can't perform at your optimum every day. And this process is an incredibly taxing, grueling, exhausting process. It's good to stay consistent, but you need to stay realistic too. You need to stay motivated. And that's why that distinction between pushing yourself and forcing yourself is important. But there is one thing that you can always do. Let's say you're driving and you're trying to drive outside of your comfort zone. And once you get to your limits, you start panicking, start feeling, I want to go home, I need to escape, I need to get back home to my safe place, I need to get back in my comfort zone, I'm terrified, I can't go any further. So you have a choice. You can either keep going, risk panicking, pushing through, trying to get over it, or you can go home, go back into your comfort zone and say, okay, I'll try again tomorrow. Now it feels like you have just those 2 choices, but there's actually one more. In this case, you cannot go further and you cannot go back home. You can stop where you are and you can wait. Pull over, get out the car, walk around for a minute, get back in the car and just wait. What happens is that anxiety rises, but eventually it has to come back down. Now when you go home, you cause it to come back down quicker, but that means next time you get to that point, it's gonna rise really quickly back to that point because it feels like, whoa, I only got away from this situation because I escaped last time. There's something dangerous about this situation. But if you kept going, it would rise and rise and rise until you realize, okay, I'm doing this situation, but I'm safe, and it would go down. But you can get the same effect by staying there, letting it rise, till eventually, just by waiting, it'll have to go down again, and you'll be able to try again. And even if you wait there for hours and eventually you can try again, that's great. Or even if you wait there for a little bit and you're able to try again, then fantastic. Or you may even find that you wait there and you just don't feel like today is the day. But you can be proud of the fact that you tried, that you waited. You didn't just give up. And that's probably one of the key points I want to make. When you face something you're anxious about and you overcome it, you get that feeling of euphoria, you feel amazing, you feel proud. And the next day, you feel like, hey, I did that thing yesterday. I can reward myself. I can take it easy today. That's the killer. That's the thing that will destroy all your progress. That reward you give yourself. When you have a good day, when you have a great success, that means that the next day, you need to push it further than you did that day. It doesn't mean that you can give yourself a break, because those breaks are the things that cause our progress to go back. They're the things that cause us to go into setbacks and eventually a relapse. And I've done this myself. I got to the point from being stuck in my house calling ambulances every day to going on an airplane and going on holiday in a different country. When I got back, I felt like, I've done this amazing thing, I can take it easy for a while. And after that, it got to the point where I couldn't walk down the street to go to a doctor's appointment a few months later. This is the thing that will really demotivate you. We don't get rewards. We don't get comfort. Your reward is the fact that you can now go further. You can now do more. And that's exactly what you should do. It's not an excuse to take a day off or relax, because that one day, at best, will keep you where you are, and at worst, will put you slightly back, or turn into 2 days, or 3. until before you know it, you feel like you can't get as far as the first time you tried. So if there's anything I want you to take away from this, is to accept this now. We don't get any breaks or rewards from pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone. I mean, obviously you can do that, but it's not gonna help. As much as you can, you need to keep going. When you notice yourself saying, hey, I should probably do that thing that I'm scared of, or hey, I'm getting a little bit comfortable, that's when you need to get back out there and push yourself. And I think that's where I'll leave it for today. I appreciate you if you made it through this whole video. I hope it was informative. I hope it was entertaining. I hope you learned something. And let me know if there's any other videos that you want me to make as well. Subscribe, hit the notification icon, all that stuff. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Take care.